Man, oh man, has it been a while since I've done this? Yeah, it's currently 3:57 a.m. and I'm gonna try to make this quickish, you know, so I can go back to my room. But I just wanted to record this video real quick because, E3 happened and Breath of the Wild 2 sequel reveal happened, and I've been thinking about stuff I want and I don't want in a game. Like, I've got my notes in front of me because I've been writing these notes all the time on my memos, and then I just transferred them to my Drive documents, docs, whatever, Google Docs. So I just think, like, one of the things that most people I know say they want is, like, if shrines appear at all in this game, don't make 120 of them. I mean, what I have written is less shrines if they are in the game at all. 120 was too much, some felt repetitive, and far too many tests of strength. That was just tedious and annoying. You only need 2 of 3 each difficulty. Perfect numbers around 50 with only 10 strength tests. Maybe make them more like DLC strength tests that felt like more like a mini dungeon for the major ones. And then have like what you usually, like the normal ones you did for the minor and medium strength tests. But for like the major ones, do what you did for like the DLC, because it felt challenging and not tedious, but like the normal one they did where you walk into an area, you fight a thing, and then you move on, just got tired. So because I want less shrines, I'm thinking of ways to get like hearts and staminas and fast traveling, stuff that the shrines really did for you throughout the game. So it's like, instead of it being 4 pieces, you could make it 2, since you have 60 instead of 120. Or you could go back to heart pieces and only use them to upgrade your stamina. I wouldn't mind that either, because I never had issues with finding heart pieces. Just don't make them as hard as Korok seeds from Breath of the Wild to find anyway. Speaking of Korok seeds, that's gotta go. That stuff is so terrible. 900 of them? No. No. You only need 450 in order to max out your stuff. I'm not gonna look for an extra almost 500 Korok seeds just for a really terrible price. You get golden poop. No one cares. Stop it. But now into the fast traveling, it's like you can either place the shrines out a little more, like at landmarks or something, but you could also make like the stables themselves, the cities themselves, and going to a point that's later on, maybe dungeons, fast travel points, as well as the 60 shrines located at landmarks, or near landmarks, I should say. But yeah, speaking of dungeons, yeah, of course everybody wants more traditional-esque dungeons. Divine Beasts were fun and all, but I want more distinguishable and unique dungeons from each other. All the Divine Beasts kind of look the same, but with a slightly altered look. Not really. I mean, the design of all the Divine Beasts were kind of the same. It's just the layout that was different, as well as obviously the gimmick of the Divine Beast. But I mean, 6 to 8 normal dungeons would be fine. I just want regular dungeons because the Divine Beasts weren't great. They were fine for what they were. They just weren't great because they all felt like mini dungeons. Even the DLC final test just felt like a mini dungeon. They never really felt like dungeons, like dungeons. They always just felt like mini dungeons. So the normal dungeons coming back would be a great idea for everyone. Like I said, 6 to 8 would be ideal, but hey, 5's cool, 4's okay, worked out for Majora's Mask. I just don't think any less than 4 would work. If you only have 3, then I don't think it's gonna work. And then maybe you could bring back some mini dungeons if you really wanted. But if you're having shrines, then I guess it really wouldn't matter if you had many dungeons in there, but it wouldn't hurt. Maybe 1, 2 if you're gonna go the extra mile. But speaking of something that just bounces right off the dungeons, you have bosses. Yeah, by better, we need better bosses. And by better bosses, I don't mean harder. The one of the Blight games was fairly challenging. I forget which one it is. It's the I think it's the Gerudo one. Yeah, it's the Gerudo Blight that was really challenging compared to the other 3. But by better bosses, I don't necessarily mean harder bosses, but ones that are more unique from each other. Because the Ganon Blights do come off as a little lazy. You know? Nobody wants that. Because there's only 2 bosses, really, aside from that. You've got the Koga and I don't even know how to say his name, Shikov DLC. One of them everybody hates, and the other one everybody really, really loves. I mean, I like them both, so I don't really have an issue with either of them. But they're both a breath of fresh air, and maybe, I don't know, kind of a stretch on this one, but like, more unique overworld bosses, if you understand me. Like, one of the shrines that you walk in and they just automatically give you the orb for doing the thing to get into the shrine, was you had that sort of tutorial-esque boss fight against one of the dragons, which was cool. But aside from him, you just have Hinoxes, those stone taluses, and Linuxes as part of the overworld bosses. But I feel like maybe adding some more unique overworld bosses would help. Not too many, like 2 or 3 tops. Maybe 1 each section of the world. Like the one in the Hebra, one in the Gerudo, one in the Faron Forest, and then one in the Goron area. Like, that would all be fine. One in Hyrule Field if you wanted. Maybe not, I don't care. But, I already mentioned that Korok seeds need to go. You can upgrade the inventory in other ways, such as prize from a minigame, being bought, or a reward from side quests. Doing all 3 would be best. But the really, really major point that I think everyone wants is a more focus on the game's story instead of it being optional. Of course, this was a lot of people's biggest gripes. This was definitely mine, that you had to go out of your way to get the story. I mean, because he could have done so much with the current story arc when he's traveling around while also finding his lost memories. I just want to counter the scenes naturally and not have to go out of my way for it. It kind of takes you out of it. if you want to get the story, but you can't find the spot and the picture you're told where you need to go, I don't know. It's just, Breath of the Wild story was fine, everything. I just wanted it to be a real story that you encounter naturally, progressively, instead of how they turned it into kind of a collectible mini game in the Breath of the Wild. Maybe not a collectible mini game, but a collectible of that. Just a collectible of cutscenes that you didn't have to find, but if you wanted the true ending, you didn't. Anyway, here's one that's just a minor gripe. I wish some things weren't amiibo only, like Epona. You can get Ganondorf with Zelda's horses, but not Link's. Majora's Mask, maybe. I don't know. I just wish there were some items that weren't amiibo only. Like, I can understand all the different hero outfits being amiibo only to, like, that specific Link's amiibo. There's just some things I wish weren't, though. Oh yeah, I wish they would tweak the durability system a little. Or give us a storage unit in our house to put weapons away instead of taking up space in our inventory for those items we don't necessarily want to use yet. And maybe even on an animal, like in that trailer, that elephant thing that had the sack on it. But, that is if I can't have my house back. If I sold it off or something. I don't know. Oh yeah, bring the cycle back in some way without it having to be DLC or amiibo exclusive. Could be a minigame, secret boss, or collectible reward, most likely in the post-game. Because that seems just like... The cycle seems like a post-game content thing, no matter what. But since it's already been done in the first one, depending on when the second one takes place, like, bring it back without having to be it DLC again or amiibo exclusive from the Breath of the Wild amiibo. Like I said, could be a reward from a mini game, a secret boss, or a collectible reward that occurs in the post game after the main story. If the Sheikah Slate does return, like, maybe add 2 or 3 puzzle tools to it. I mean, you could always replace one with something else, but it's just better to add to it than replace. Maybe a Zelda playable section. Potential co-op opportunities. That won't hinder single player. That's all everybody wants. It's just, we want Zelda. We want to play as Zelda. Maybe not for the whole game. Maybe a swap out system like Resident Evil 2 Revelations. Or Resident Evil Revelations 2. But, I kind of want her to be playable in some way, shape, or form, even if it's only a tall, little, mini, minor sections. But I feel like some co-op opportunities with Zelda and Link in Breath of the Wild 2 would be pretty great. But I don't want it to hinder the single player aspect of the game. Kind of like how Sheva's computer does in Resident Evil 5. Anyway, I think that's it's probably in the top 3 requests, really, is Zelda playable. Number 1 would definitely make the story more important, and I guess number 2 would be dungeons and bosses designs, and bring back traditional dungeons and better bosses. But yeah, and more clear hints to the timeline placement, hopefully. This is pretty divisive, seeing as most don't like the timeline because of the mess it causes. That being said, everyone loves to make theories about it, so... And it seems like they kinda have, because they've made a lot of stronger hints towards Twilight Princess. Maybe hinting at it being in the child's timeline. And the last thing I have written down here is, since we're going back to the same Hyrule, because that's their main reason for making a sequel, aside from the fact that they had too many ideas, was that he always wanted to do more with this Hyrule because he liked it so much. Anuma did. So it's got to be changed in some way, which suggests some kind of time change, whether they're time traveling backwards, or most likely backwards rather than forwards, because that just makes more sense. I mean, it's not far-fetched given Zelda's history with time traveling. I mean, they've done it both in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask in general, or Skyward Sword. They've traveled dimensions, the Dark World, the Twilight Realm. They're always doing stuff like that, so it's not far-fetched, but I would rather see it just time jump 5 years or so after Calamity, which could mean more ruins pop up, or the same ones becoming more decrepit, towns having more additions, most importantly some form of an actual breathing Hyrule castle like in Twilight Princess. Maybe you help make it thrive as the game goes on even more from a starting point they start between games. Like after the end of Breath of the Wild, Zelda and Link start to rebuild Hyrule, and then through the progression of this game you make it come back to life better, kind of like you did with Terrytown. That's another one. You could also do another thing of that, expanding Terrytown in this game. And then of course you had the 4 major cities. Maybe those could be expanded on somehow. Just some changes going on with the world, whether it be with the actual landscape, town progression, and all that stuff. Isn't there be 5? So you have Gerudo, Goron City, and then you have Gerudo, Zora, Hateno, and the one on the beach. So there's 6 cities, excluding Hyrule Castle. If Hyrule Castle is there, then 7, but not, then 6. Anyway, but yeah, you can like help Terrytown expand more, and do that for Hyrule Castle in this game if you don't want to do it with Terrytown. But yeah, like I was saying, honestly, from this is my kind of wish list for this game. Also, the other thing I want to touch on real quick is I don't like when people call this game Breath of the Wild 2. Because I just want this game to have a title already. That's why I like to use the sequel of Breath of the Wild, because I want to give this game its own identity. I really don't want to compare it to Breath of the Wild so much that it just becomes an afterthought or hindered down because everybody got so used to Breath of the Wild. But yeah, honestly, like I said, the top 3 points from this is, number 1 is the story. Make it more important, make it more natural and organically progressed through, instead of being so out of the way like it was in Breath of the Wild. Number 2 are dungeons and bosses. I want traditional dungeons and just better bosses in general. Not necessarily harder, but better designed bosses that look more unique and distinguishable from each other, instead of them all just being forms of Ganon Blights. And Zelda playable in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's just like some sections here and there, like Mary Jane from frickin' Marvel Spider-Man, or some kind of swap co-op system where you can have a second player drop in and out at will, or you can swap between Link and Zelda in single player. I mean, honestly, that's all we really want. So that's about it. My wish and want list, what I want and what I don't want to come back, or Yeah, and the sequel to Breath of the Wild, which I really can't wait for. I mean, hopefully it comes out in the fall of next year. Because I remember watching a video where somebody said most likely fall of next year because they need something to fight against the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlet. And what better way to do that than the game that sold the Switch system in general's sequel? So yeah, I hope you have a great day. Remember, only you can be the best you can possibly be. If you like the video, like, comment, feel it'd be super special, awesome. Subscribe if you haven't, that'd really help me out. And ta-ta for now.